The Bengals could go a variety of different ways with the 28th overall pick in the 2023 NFL Draft. It's time to talk cornerback. Hi again, everyone, and welcome into Cincinnati Bengals Talk. I'm James Rapien of allbengals.com, joined by Joe Goodberry. Make sure you follow him on Twitter at Joe Goodberry. Hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. And let's dive into the top cornerbacks of this draft class, Joe, because naturally we've discussed corner. You have a ton on Bengals on the brain, looking at Emmanuel Forbes and some of these top cornerbacks in this draft. And looking at it, that might be the favorite position if you had to look at the odds of the Bengals addressing and taking in round one.
Yeah, that's right. I think this is maybe the strongest class in the entire draft class. The strongest position is corner. And I think we've got, typically, I went through and looked at recent history. Typically, there's only about 4 corners that will go before pick 28. So if you like the 5th, 6th guy, well, and in this class, I really do. And I think the Bengals probably agree too. They met with half of these guys in some way or form. If that 5th guy is there and you have still a top 20 grade on him, which again, I do, we'll get to the specifics, then you're going to sit there and say it's probably best player available. But the other half of that is value. And I think this stretches all the way into round 2.
That's interesting because if it's deep there and they have 3 guys that are similar and one of these quarterbacks falls and someone wants to trade up, or one of these non-corners that are non-Bengals targets falls and a team wants to move up, the Bengals could move down and still get one of these top corners. Let's start at the top of your rankings. Who are the guys that lead the list here in your cornerback rankings?
So number 1 is Christian Gonzalez out of Oregon. He transferred.
Love him.
Yeah, from Colorado. And that's the game I would say, if you want to watch one game, put on Gonzalez with Oregon versus Colorado. So he transferred from there, goes to Oregon, and just gets 2 picks, a pick 6. I mean, just absolutely just dog walks him, right? And swag, ball skills, 20 years old, super young, athletic. I think
he got Dion to go to Colorado. He got the old coach fired.
Nice.
I'm just kidding. Maybe not, but
right.
Heck of a performance.
But I think he's worth a top 6 pick or so, and I think he ends up going in that range, if not definitely top 10. For me, number 2 is actually Emmanuel Forbes, and we've talked about him a bunch. We talked about him on Bengals on the Brain. We got a whole review over there. I won't spend too much time, but he checks every single box other than the weight. So overall, he's scoring extremely high. I mean, he's coming off for me as a top 10 player in this draft class. If he's still there at 28, I think the Bengals are going to be very high on him as well, and that could definitely be the pick. Next is Devon Witherspoon out of Illinois. I think he is, again, very similar. I graded him, me and Mike Sands, if you follow Mike on Twitter, Bengals Sands, both gave him super high grades, actually thinking he could be the number 1 corner in this class. He grades out as the number 3 guy only because he didn't completely test. He just ran his 40 and went home, kind of Deion Sanders style. But I think those 3 are easy the top 3 corners in the class. And then the next group is where it gets tighter.
Let's talk about those 3. Obviously, Gonzalez isn't going to make it to 28. No. Could you see, we've talked about Forbes some, but could you see those other 2 making it? What kind of odds would you give it? Because Forbes, there's the fly in the ointment of the weight.
Yeah.
So some teams are probably going to just get scared off or go with one of these other guys if they do want a corner. And so I could see him falling. But do you see the path for these other 2?
I don't see it for Gonzalez or Witherspoon. Maybe a chance for Witherspoon. I think both still end up going top 15, easy, clearing that. The only thing is that you start to get, I think, different flavors from everyone. And I even saw like PFF Sam Monson posted his top 6 corners, and he had Witherspoon number 6. It was Gonzalez. He had Gonzalez number 6, which could show you in a strong class, you may get some mixtures from different team and different analysts of where they would rank them. So yeah, anything could happen. I think it's more likely that the next 3 guys or so are the interesting ones of where they go. Because I think if Forbes, here's the thing on the evaluation, and one more point on his weight, if he was 185, because he was 170 at his pro day, I think even if he was 180, because there's a bunch of light guys in this class, actually. There's 7 that are 185 or less. If he was in that range, 180 to 185, he'd be a slam dunk top 15 pick. No question at all. And so that's why I think if you could get him at a discount at 28 because of that issue, it's a no-brainer at that point because of how good he would have been. So the other guys then after that are Deonte Banks, Cam Smith, Joey Porter Jr., and KELEE RINGO, which I think all those guys go in the top 45-ish. Ringo probably being the last one, but he's one of the youngest guys in this class. Also, same age as Christian Gonzalez. He's 20 years old. Bengals seem to like these young guys when they get a chance to do it, and they met with him at the Combine. So I think Banks probably still goes top 22-ish. I think Porter is in the range also, but he slides in under Banks for me. And then I think Cam Smith is the guy we're not talking about out of South Carolina. And the Bengals sent their defensive backs coach, I think it was Robert Livingston, to South Carolina's pro day to run the defensive back drills, which is important. That the Bengals send a lot of coaches to these things. But when they are the ones running them through the drills, I put an extra check there because they've got hands-on. Somebody wants them to go see them personally.
It's interesting that you mentioned those guys in that order, because there is a scenario, because there's a part of the fan base that says there's no way I want to touch a 170-pound corner. That's just, maybe they have Cam Smith ahead of him, or maybe they like Ringo's profile and how young he is and go that route. I think it's interesting, but the one that I want to ask you about, because it seems like you're lower than consensus, Joey Porter Jr. Obviously, it's a big name, son of former Pittsburgh Steeler Joey Porter. He's a villain. Yeah. His dad is in around these parts. But what do you like? What do you not like? And would you be comfortable with him at 28?
Yeah, I would be comfortable. I think he mostly checks all the boxes you're looking for in a prospect. I think some of the issues I had with him on tape are his picking and choosing when to defend the run and make a tackle. He's not really a good tackler, even though he's got those long arms and he's strong. He looks like his father in a lot of ways, but at corner, because I think he picks and chooses a little bit too often. Honestly, I think the same with Deonte Banks. I think Cam Smith's a much better tackler. I think Forbes a much better tackler. And I think Witherspoon and Gonzalez are more involved in the run game as well, for sure. So I think Porter probably ranks as for a big, and he's 193 pounds, but he's got long arms like his dad. He ranks lower than those guys in that way, and his ball production should have been a little bit better. I thought there were times you get the Drake Kirkpatrick syndrome where he's in great coverage and the ball goes right over his shoulder and the guy catches it. And it's like, good coverage. I would like to see him make a play on the ball, especially because this class has tremendous ball skills. Cam Smith, one of the guys that has the highest ball production. Emmanuel Forbes has extremely high ball production. So I think he falls behind on that if that's something you're really looking for. But again, bringing up weight, Porter's 193, so that's average size. But Cam Smith is also 180 and Witherspoon's 181. So again, at the top of this class, there are a few light guys.
Give me the ball skills. The weight part, I'll figure that out. And you're right. I like Forbes a ton. I mean, he isn't afraid to hit. Like it's not that. And that's the thing with Dax Hill last year too. And I know it's different weight wise, but he's wiry, but he wasn't afraid to try to hit and come up in the box and do those things. And I think Forbes, that would be my guy if I had to say it, of these guys in realistic 28, because I think part of it is because I like deals, Joe.
Yes.
And so it feels like you're getting a discount, like you said. And I can't turn that part down. Not that Cam Smith wouldn't be great, but I want the ball skills. Well, that's the part of it that I think is so important, because you're going to be facing Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes. You're going to be facing guys that are going to throw it all over the field. I want a guy that can go make a play in crunch time.
And you're going to get beat by those quarterbacks and the great receivers. Yeah. It's going to happen. So make a play on the ball and turn the tide of the game, right? That's what I want. Trevon Diggs from Dallas, right? He's going to get beat. Yes. But when he makes a play on the ball, the whole game flips. And I'll give you career interceptions and pass breakups per target. So this is a percentage-based thing. When you get targeted, how often are you getting your hands on the ball? We'll look at the top guys that we're talking about. Emmanuel Forbes, 16.2% of the time, he deflects or intercepts the ball when you're targeting him. Yeah, that's pretty good. Deonte Banks, 12.8%, so a little bit lower. Joey Porter, 13.3%, a little bit lower. Cam Smith, 23.4%. You got a 1 in 4 chance that he's going to touch that ball if you throw it his way. His ball skills and his tackling are really, really good.
And his tackling. That's important when I think of Lou Anarumo. Remember when they signed Trey Waynes? It was like, oh man, he's such a good tackler. Mm-hmm. And I know that didn't work, but he wants his corners to be able to tackle. So what's the negative on Cam Smith then? Because I hear great ball skills. Obviously, the production's there. It's not like he played at a small school.
Lots of penalties.
What should we be concerned about?
Yeah, penalties. He's a bit grabby at times. I think he still needs more experience. I think in that South Carolina defense, both the corners look good. The other one is Darius Rush. but they're kind of playing like off zone and they can be grabby at the top of routes. So there is some negatives with everyone, of course, that is the thing, but you got to think if a coach says, well, I can coach that out of them, or we're not really going to play that much like that in our defense, so we're not really worried about that issue. I could see teams liking him as a fit or saying he's complete. That's not going to be an issue for us because we're not going to put him in those situations.
The last thing I want to hit on, and I'm reminded of Tyrann Mathieu's NFL Combine interview with Deion Sanders. And he said, what's it going to be like for you at your size to face Calvin Johnson? And Tyrann Mathieu said, well, he's going to get his 2 touchdowns, but I'm going to get my 2 forced fumbles. And that's the type of playmaking that I like from members of the secondary. And so just going back to Emmanuel Forbes, yeah, he might get beat some, but he's also going to make some plays. And Cam Smith makes some plays on the ball. I like that aspect of it. The penalties are a little scary though. So it's going to be interesting. Any other comments on these corners?
No, I can actually bring up penalties real quick. So Deonte Banks is worse than Cam Smith on a penalty per snap basis. He's the worst, one of the worst in this entire class. Everyone else is pretty good. Christian Gonzalez, 1 penalty every 765 snaps. So you're looking at 1 or 2 penalties a season for him, which is tremendous.
He's Joe Goodberry. Make sure you follow him on Twitter at Joe Goodberry. Check out Bengals on the Brain if you haven't. The draft is almost here. Hit that subscribe button, ring the bell. For Andrew Fox Miller, our channel coordinator, I'm James Rapien, signing off for now on CBT, Cincinnati Bengals Talk.